What is the one thing that most people do when they get a new tool? I mean, this is something that I do when I get a new tool, and I'm sure you probably do too. Find every excuse to use it. So I picked up this bead roller a few weeks ago from Jegs, and one of the first things I did with it was use it to create some detail on a radiator cover I made for the D100. I'll link to that video up here somewhere. Oh, and never mind the stand the bead roller's on. That's a work in progress. There will be a video coming on that. So, of course, I've been wanting to use the bead roller more. So I went ahead and I made a heat shield. Now, I'll link to a video up here where I mounted a fuel pump and fuel filter inside the frame rail. And that sits pretty close to one of my mufflers. So I created this heat shield. Just took some 20 gauge, bent it up, and then added a little bead detail to it just because I have the bead roller and I've been wanting to practice. And then I hit it with some undercoat, and this will be going up inside the frame rail between the muffler and the fuel pump and fuel filter. Now I've been wanting to turn my attention to some work inside the cab of the D100. So what I want to do is create a filler panel for my transmission access. So I've got the hole cut to the size that I want it, and then I cut a template out, just some chipboard, and laid that out on some 20 gauge sheet metal. Now I'm going to cut this out, and we'll get to the next step. Now that I've got the sheet metal sitting in place, I'm going to get up under the truck and I'm going to trace out the hole on the bottom of the plate. Now with the rough shape traced out, I can clean up the lines. Now that I've got my pattern transferred onto the sheet metal, I want to add a recess to the center. And that's for a few reasons. First, that'll give me just a lip to kind of secure the panel around the access hole. And hopefully, the idea being that hopefully that recess will just kind of help it seal around that hole and seal to the sound deadener that's on the transmission cover. Also, that recess, if I was going to have this, let's say, under some carpet, by recess in the center, it gives me a section to add some more heat shield or sound deadener, and that way it won't be raised up if there was going to be carpet over it. In my situation, the carpet is split over the hole, and there's going to be a part of the dash is going to come up and hide all this, so it's not going to be under the carpet. But if you were going to have this under the carpet, by recess in the center, that gives you an area to add some more sound deadener, and it won't create any kind of high spots under your carpet. So I'm going to get this into the bead roller and add that recessed section. All right, keep in mind, this is the bottom of the panel. So you got to make sure that you got your dies set up correctly in your bead roller. I say this because I almost screwed this up. I almost had my dies in the other way, and that would have added a raised section. Now for a panel like this, it doesn't really matter because it's kind of universal. It doesn't matter if I put it in one way or the other, but for being able to trace the line out in my intended location, I want it in this orientation. So just be mindful. After I got the recess put in the panel, I went ahead and I rounded off all the corners. Now I'm going to put it in the truck and I'm going to shape the flange area to the curve of the transmission hump. Now that I've got my panel pretty much to the contour that I want, I'm going to start drilling all the mounting holes. Now I'm going to use Clecos to hold it in place as I get all the hole locations drilled. And then when I take the panel off, I'm going to widen the holes out on the transmission hump side and add riv nuts, probably 1024 riv nuts. And then that'll allow me to just easily screw this into place, not have just sheet metal screws holding this in place. Once I get all that done, then we'll go to the next step. Now that I've got all my mounting hole locations drilled out, I can remove the panel, drill the holes in the tunnel large enough for the riv nuts, and then finish out the panel. So here's my just about finished transmission access cover. I went ahead and drilled all the holes out to the correct size for the mounting screws. Now I'm going to finish it out. I'm going to use some of this Rust-Oleum matte black primer and paint. And then on the bottom side, I'm going to use some Rust-Oleum undercoating. And that'll just help with some more sound deadener, give us some more corrosion resistance to the bottom side of the panel. I'm going to get this thing finished out. Once the paint and undercoating dried, I added a piece of Eastwood's X-Matte to the panel just to add a bit more sound deadening capability. Now I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I even got it, let me show it there. It even has a slight curve to the panel, and that was created when I was trying to round this edge over to the shape of the tunnel. It actually curved the panel up, and it really is contoured really well to the shape of the transmission tunnel. Let's throw it in place and I'll show you how it looks. And there it is in place. Unfortunately, it doesn't really show up real well on camera with it being kind of, you know, black on black with the carpet and everything. But this thing is really sitting in here really well. The edge is nicely contoured to the rest of the tunnel. And once the carpet is in place and this thing gets screwed down, it's really going to be in there. I am really happy with the way this turned out. Now, I haven't bothered to secure this thing in place because it is going to come right back out once I get done recording, because I'm going to have to get in there when I get ready to do my engine and transmission install. Overall, that panel came out a lot better than what I was thinking it was going to. I mean, yeah, I could have just taken any old piece of sheet metal and just curved it to fit the tunnel and, you know, added some sheet metal screws, and that would have been that. So even though it's a project that's never really going to be seen, I really wanted to put in a little extra time, a little extra effort into that. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe, hit that bell so you get notified when new videos come out, and I'll see you on the next one.